Senator Moyes recognized.
Mr. President, I rise today to thank the government of Kenya and its president, Kibaki, for the difficult decision he and his government have made with regard to Somalia. We all recall Somalia as the site of the Black Hawk Down tragedy in 1993. And as much as Americans might wish to ignore that troubled country, I don't think we can. Somalia is a country whose government collapsed in 1991, but has now given rise to what is arguably the second largest terror presence on planet Earth, called Al-Shabaab. And the country also represents a new 21st century threat of piracy across America's Persian Gulf oil supply lines. Now, on October 16th, at the invitation of the Somali Transitional Federal Government, the Kenyan government launched Operation Protect the Country against the Al-Shabaab terrorist organization based in Somalia. We all recall that Al-Shabaab is an al-Qaeda affiliate that was designated as a foreign terrorist organization by the United States since 2008. It's responsible for multiple attacks in Somalia, in Kenya, and Uganda, including the suicide bombing in July of 2010 in Kampala that killed 76 people, including an American citizen, 25-year-old Nate Henn of North Carolina, who worked for the Invisible Children nonprofit organization. Also, on October 25th, Al-Shabaab kidnapped and is still holding another American citizen, 32-year-old Jessica Buchanan of Virginia. Now, about 4,000 Kenyan troops are now approaching the critical Somali port of Kismayo, where Al-Shabaab makes most of its money and is headquartered. The success of the Kenyan operation would mean a significant weakening of Al-Shabaab's ability to plan and execute terrorist attacks, and would greatly support the security of the region and the United States. Also joining in the fight against Al-Shabaab are prominent local tribal militias, including Alusuna Wajimula, the ASWJ, the Ras Kambui Front, and the Jubaland militia, formed under the former TFG Defense Minister Mohammed Abdi Mohammed. I commend the Kenyan government and allied groups for their action, and the United States and NATO should support this Kenyan action. Al-Shabaab poses a significant threat to America's national security and to Kenya's safety. Since 2009, Al-Shabaab has conducted at least 10 attacks on Kenyan soil and the territorial seas along her coastline. In a particular heinous crime on October 1st, Al-Shabaab kidnapped a disabled French woman on Kenyan soil and dragged her to Somalia, where she later died. Last week, Al-Shabaab militants also threw a grenade into a Nairobi nightclub. Because of Al-Shabaab's refusal to allow access for humanitarian organizations to relieve famine, Kenya is also now home to 600,000 Somali refugees. In many ways, the famine and distress that is now evident in Somalia should be called the Al-Shabaab famine. Al-Shabaab also poses a direct threat to the United States by actively radicalizing and recruiting American citizens. On October 29th, a suicide bomber attacked an African Union base in Mogadishu, killing himself and 10 other human beings. The suspect, Abdisalan Hussein Ali, was a 22-year-old American citizen who grew up in Minneapolis and studied to be a doctor before he suddenly disappeared to join Al-Shabaab in 2008. The recording that he allegedly made before his death contains a disturbing message aimed at young Americans. He said, quote, "Today, jihad is what is most important. It's not important that you become a doctor or some sort of engineer." According to the FBI, Ali was one of 30 American citizens who have now joined Al-Shabaab. In August of 2010, the FBI arrested 2 and charged 12 more individuals in Minnesota, in Alabama, and California with, quote, acts of terrorism that include providing money and personnel and other material support to the Somali-based terror organization Al-Shabaab. At the time, Attorney General Eric Holder called it a deadly pipeline that has routed funding and fighters to Al-Shabaab from cities across the United States. On July 27th, an investigation by the House Committee on Homeland Security found the following: that Al-Shabaab has an active recruitment and radicalization network inside the United States, targeting Muslim Americans in Somali communities. It ensnared a few non-Somali Muslim American converts, as well as a top Shabaab commander. At least 40 or more Americans, according to the House, have joined Al-Shabaab. So many Americans have joined that at least 15 of them have now been killed in fighting for Shabaab, as well as 3 Canadian citizens. The 3 Americans who returned to the U.S. were prosecuted, and 1 awaits extradition in the Netherlands. And at least 21 more American Al-Shabaab members are overseas and remain unaccounted for and pose a direct threat to the U.S. homeland. The House said that Al-Shabaab has the intent and capability to conduct attacks or to aid the core of Al-Qaeda or Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula in Yemen to strike U.S. interest or our homeland. They said that Al-Shabaab has openly pledged loyalty and support to Al-Qaeda and Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula in Yemen, and has cemented an alarming set of operational ties to both groups. The House report also points out that after the successful U.S. operation to kill Osama bin Laden, Al-Shabaab's leadership eulogized bin Laden and vowed revenge against the United States. Omar Hamani, another Al-Shabaab leader raised in the United States, said, quote, he swore a blood revenge against his own homeland for the May 1st killing of Osama bin Laden. Al-Shabaab poses a grave threat to regional stability and to our own national security. I thank the Kenyan government and their allies in Somalia for taking action. Our administration and our NATO allies should support Kenya. We should also make sure that in this support, we have the objective to collapse Al-Shabaab in Somalia. With luck, while Al-Shabaab may have found a recruit or 2 more among American citizens to wage jihad against their own country, there hopefully will be no Al-Shabaab to fight for if they ever reach Somalia. Mr. President, I yield back.